Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here for our May webinar on improving conversion via site search. And this is the second in our Findability series that should encompass 3 different webinars. I'll talk for about 20 minutes here this morning, and then we'll have a couple of minutes just for questions if there are any at the end. My name is Roger Bynan. I've been the Chief Strategy Officer here at Usability Sciences since 2001, and we'll get right on with the presentation here. So let's set up the context, if you like, for how we look at user experience in the online world and the sort of analytical framework that we approach this type of data within. So this slide's a little busy, I'm sorry, but what we're trying to do here is again, just paint context. So we start on the left-hand side with the sort of sequence of behaviors that we all recognize as leading to online conversion, in the sense that we become aware of a need or a want. We seek out sites on which we think we can fulfill those needs. We arrive at them. We navigate our way through them. We find alternative products or pieces of information. We assess them. We come to a decision. We commit to that decision, and then we conclude the transaction. And what we believe is that there are 3 sort of separate phases of assessments that the customer, the visitor, goes through in that process. And the first of those is assessing the suitability of the site. So how likely is it on first impression, really, to meet my needs? And then if that is deemed to be positive, you start to explore the site, in which case you're assessing the findability. How easily can I make my way to what I need? And then, again, assuming that we find it, we'll say, okay, how easy is it for me to reach certitude, by which we mean freedom from doubt, and consummate the transaction. And obviously the whole notion of certitude is really important in the online space, because without the ability to use all our senses to evaluate the product, we can only approach a degree of certitude with certain types of products. And then if we flip the viewpoint from the customer to the site, we know that if there are problems in terms of visitors determining the suitability of the site, that translates into a problem for us that everybody calls bounce. In terms of the findability, this wouldn't be as commonly referenced here, but we term it internally opportunity loss, and that's just people's inability to get from their point of entry to the site to the product or the piece of information it is that they're looking for. And then finally, the whole notion of, yes, I found something that I'm interested in, but the process of actually coming to certitude and consummating the transaction is too difficult. There are too many problems with it, and we classify that as abandonment. So, bounce, opportunity loss, and abandonment are the 3 sort of primary problem areas that we tend to look at. And so, again, somewhat rhetorically, given the nature of the topic today, but which problem should the site focus on? And findability is, to our way of thinking in terms of the data that we're familiar with, far and away the most prevalent problem here. So we've been running on-site or online intercept surveys for 12 years, and over that time we've collected millions of responses, primarily from Fortune 500 sites. we ask people on entry who they are and why they are there, so their visit intent. And then when they finished their journey through the site, completed the visit, we ask them, based on their intent, how successful they were. And so, obviously, a significant proportion of people report failure. And when we classify the reasons for those failures, 50%, actually more than 50% of those reasons fall into the realm of findability problems. So it's an enormous problem, and it's one that most sites would do well to prioritize. So if that's the case, then what's the most efficient way to assess findability on your site? And again, we believe without any doubt at all that the most efficient way to assess findability is through behavioral surveying. And by behavioral surveying, we mean an intercept survey that is intelligent, which is to say that it captures the users, the respondents' page load and clickstream data at the same time as it's capturing their survey responses. And the reason that that is important is because on the exit questions that you're asking people when they've concluded their visit, you can ask questions customized to each individual's journey through the site. So you get sort of immediate contextual feedback predicated on the content that they've interacted with, the tools that they may have used, what they have done, or equally significantly, what they might not have done on the site. Now, we obviously have the technology to do this, but we're not the only ones by any means. And most recently, Qualtrics offers the ability in the self-service space to essentially, customize exit questions or survey questions predicated on the user's behavior on the site. And there are other options out there. Keynote used to have, or has the old Vividence and Network, the technology, and UserZoom as well has that type of capability. Those types of survey tools are probably preferred. If you can't use those for any reason, then the next thing to do, the next best thing to do is to integrate survey data with your web analytics data. And obviously there are a batch of different tools out of that. But the post-processing integration obviously doesn't give you the ability to ask questions predicated on behavior, and that's where the greatest value is. And so within the context, again, of findability and the type of data that we pull from behavioral surveying, there's the navigation data on which we produce outcome and path and heat map analysis. There's the taxonomy data where we do label and meaning gap analysis. That's a really pernicious problem on a lot of websites, and actually the taxonomy was the subject of our previous seminar. But today we're going to focus obviously on search, and the data that you pull from that is context, behavior, and relevance. And what we have typically found on e-commerce sites is that about 20 to 25% of visitors will use site search at some point during their journey. Now, for some people, it'll be their default browsing path, if you like, a browsing mode, and for others, it'll be a last resort. And the sort of range that we've seen, we'll see some sites where search will be used by 30-35% of visitors, and then other sites where it will be down as low as 4 or 5 or 6%. But typically, 20 to 25% is a reasonable benchmark. So we've only, on average, a quarter of visitors use search. why make the numerically least significant element of findability the priority? And here's the reason. This is the payoff slide, and it's because searches are serious shoppers, and searches are pure gold. So this is a sample, as you can see, of 22,000 searches collected over 4 different e-commerce sites over the last couple of years. And the numbers there are averages, but they are indicative of the experience on each of these sites. So even though searches represent only 21% of visitors, within the searcher population, they convert at 3 times the rate of browsers, and their spend is significantly more. And even first-timers' spend is 50% greater than that of returning visitors. So searches really are your most valuable segment, and they are well worth expending a lot of time and effort to make sure that their experience is optimized. So then how do you diagnose your site search itself? And again, there are 3 areas of diagnosis that we focus on. Starting on the bottom left there is the behavior. This is primarily looking at the type of filters that people will use, the sort mechanisms that they'll use, whether they paginate through results. There are behavior patterns in the refinement process that will tell you about the way that you set things up, the effectiveness of your filters, the popularity of your sort routines, and how they contribute to visit outcome, search outcome. Then on the lower right-hand side here, we get into meta-tagging and search setup analysis. The meta-tagging protocols are always a huge influence on the efficacy of search, and that requires obviously getting really granular in terms of investigating users' reaction, but it's always an important element to look at. But for the most part, the easiest and probably the most fruitful pathway that you can take to begin with is soliciting the direct feedback in terms of the relevance, the context, and the outcome of the specific searches. And so this is where analytically and methodologically we would start the process by asking this type of question. And of course, you can ask this type of question only when you have the behavioral surveying deployed, but this is the sort of thing. You play back for someone the search term that they utilized, and then you ask based on that search term how relevant the results were. You asked how effective the site search process was. You asked outcome, was your site search successful? And then you try to capture beyond that more context about their intent behind the search. And the reason relevance is so important is because, first of all, relevance dictates search success, but much more importantly, it dictates conversion through site search. And so, again, there are obviously a couple of different scales on this, and the relationship is not absolutely direct, but I think from the shape of it and the number of responses and the length of time, you can see that the relationship really between relevance, success, and conversion is undeniable. If you want to improve conversion, you improve relevance. And again, that's the process that we focus on. And this slide is almost parenthetical, but it just underlines how much more important getting site search right, making it optimized is, as the share of your visitors accessing the site through mobile devices, whether they're smartphones or tablets, is going to increase over time. So, this is the latest Adobe Digital Index that came out this month, and the trajectory of mobile adoption is obviously something that points to the need for search efficacy. And the direct feedback that we capture makes the subsequent behavioral analysis that we undertake much more efficient. It's really hard a lot of the time to glean nuggets from straight behavioral data, but if you have direct visit indicators, if you like, it makes it a much more productive process. And so along with the direct feedback, if you're using, again, behavioral surveying technology, there's a lot of parametric data that you will want to capture. And so, some of them I have listed down here in terms of, the subsequent searches and strings. If you have 4 or 5 or 6 search terms to look at, and the person is apparently looking for the same product and can't find it, the way that search term is refined through different searches is of great value when you're looking at your taxonomy. The links that they click on, so again, especially for failed searches, when somebody clicks on something, what specifically did they go to? Why was that not what they were looking for? So the link's position within search results, again, predicated on the way you set your search up, what criteria you have there. All of these data points will allow you to examine the efficacy of these different tactics that you have. And so with that, I'll just show you quickly how this data comes through to us in terms of the dashboards that we use. Okay. So the first thing I need to say is that this is absolutely positively not Macy's data. I have cleansed this data so that it's completely unidentifiable, but I've just set this dashboard up and plugged in the Macy's site for sort of demonstration purposes. But here is the way in which we would set up direct feedback. And so on the top left here, you can see the success and failure of visit outcomes by navigation mode over time. On the left, we have people who browse, which is to say do not at any point in their visit use search. And then over on the right-hand side, we have searchers. And again, what becomes obvious is that searchers have a much tougher time of things. And so the way we set these things up is that these are interactive dashboards. So you can take a data point here, and that will cross-tab down here on the left-hand side to this chart. And again, for analytical purposes, what you're looking for all the time is context, context, context. So Tableau allows you to connect from your results into the site itself. So if I click on Christmas decorations here, that'll generate the search on the Macy's site. And so you have here, along with the feedback, some idea of the context within which the feedback is taking place. And again, if you have behavioral surveying, you can look at the clickstream data and understand the progression through the sites But analytically, it just makes life so much more efficient if you can have this type of linkage happening on the site. It just makes direct feedback much more valuable and actionable. On the other side of it, when we're looking at the behavioral type of feedback, again, you want to be able to cross-tab it. But here we've set up the sort of filter activity, so we're capturing the instances where people use the different filters. So you can see, size and rating here are the most popular. But on the left-hand side, we've cross-tabbed those filters with the site search outcome data. So you can see here that even though rating is very popular, it's got a lot of problems associated with it. And again, setting this data up so that you get context, you can now click on the users who used the rating filter but had an unsuccessful search, and generate on the right-hand side the context within which they rendered that verdict. Same thing for the position in the results. So this is showing you all the people who clicked on the first listed result in the results page. And by the same token, you have a very sort of disappointing rate of failure. So you want to be able to understand by clicking on this data point, again, the feedback and context for it. And obviously the process then of just going through that data, sifting it and coming to your conclusions is where you will find the material for conversion improvement. So that's the presentation. I've taken a minute longer today than I did yesterday, so I'm obviously getting verbose. So at this point, we'll take any questions. If you'd like to type them in the Q&A or the chat boxes. I noticed Jen Cardello's here. Hello, Jen. And I can't hear. I know I can't hear you, but hello, Jen. How are you? Okay, so the first question it relates to the dashboards here. These are created inside Tableau. That's a commercially available data visualization software, and it's incredibly powerful. We use it to create these analytical dashboards, and what we find the most productive use of them is to build the charts with the ability to cascade, so that you can have on one screen a complete analytical pathway, if you like, from, let's say, the demographics right through to a competitive assessment of the site visit. And it shows you longitudinal data, chart data, and this ability to integrate outside elements into the dashboard, make it very flexible. From, again, an analyst's point of view, your time is the most important asset that you have, and you're much more efficient, we believe, using a tool like this than you would normally. And that appears to be the only question. So with that, thank you very much for your time and attention today, and we hope you got some value out of the data, and it gives you some ideas moving forward. Appreciate everyone's time. Thank you. Bye.